Yeah.
Welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff here with co-host Chip. What is going on, everybody? What's going on the Chain family? I'll tell you what's going on. Central bank digital currencies. Another bill passed. We had the FIT bill that passed, and right after that, from the Financial Services Committee, the CBDC Anti-Surveillance Act crypto bill passes the House. Put crypto in there because there's a series of these bills that are going to start popping and going over to the Senate. Let's see what kind of appetite the Senate has. Let's see if they pass it, don't pass it. Let's see if we get some innovation back in the U.S. And like we talked about the other day, guess who accepts XRP and crypto to their campaign? You know who that is? Trump. That's who. Trump, the pro-crypto president.
First crypto president, actually.
First crypto president and candidate. So we'll get into that. And you know what? There's some news, Chip, before we get Ripple grant program. Why does that keep lurking and popping up? And people aren't.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. But actually, one of our friends did make it. We'll talk about that too. From that we were in Australia with. So happy to see that. But yeah. It's still a poorly run program.
Yeah.
And they're still under the billion XRP they promised, but they've only doled out 3% in 3 years. So
yeah. Might as well just not promise
it. Well, there's that too. So let's hit through. But we have a CEO talking about it, his project getting rejected, and he has a surprising take on it. So let's talk about that too, and the CBDC bill. Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
Oh yeah. So look at this. Right out of the gate here, Lou's bummered. He said, "Bummer, I have a thing this morning. I'll miss the live. Don't worry, Lou.
Man,
don't worry. We'll see you on the rewatch. Don't worry. There's plenty of news, mostly good too. That is very good.
Mostly good news.
He's got a thing. You have a thing.
He's got a thing.
You want to do the other thing, but you got this other thing you have to do.
You wanted to do the thing, but yeah, then another thing came up.
Opie's in here. Good morning, OTC family.
The other thing.
Let's see.
Give a quick shout out where you guys are tuning in from. Love to see what part of the world you're in.
We didn't leave Rumble. It's just Jeff been lazy.
Yeah, just takes a lot to get it set up, and then it's drawing people. It's drawing like half the audience away from YouTube, and we got to get that re-engagement. It was impacting numbers, even though I'd like to have everybody over on Rumble. And then
if it was up to us, we would have everybody over there. But it's a little bit more friction over there too. I mean, it's a lot to set it up. I mean, just to give you guys an idea, when we set up, the 3 X's, like Jeff's personal X, my personal X, and then the On the Chain X, formerly known as Twitter. When it goes to Twitch, it's already set up ahead of time. All you do is click a button, you select the ones you want to go to, you're done. Now, Rumble, you have to select it, then you have to go over and you have to create a key, then you have to come back. It's all this extra stuff. And it's just, now, there's so many people that stream live over there, just make it easy so you can plug into these streaming software.
That's it.
All they have to do is write
that's what we're asking for.
An API connection, and it's done. I mean, it's just, we've been wanting this. We've been talking to StreamYard about it, and they're like, Rumble doesn't offer it. And I'm like, Rumble, just get off your ass and do it, man. Make it easy, because then we just go there naturally. It'd be good. Jim D's in here. Look at this right here.
Jimmy D.
Chantal Line is here. Alex Yeet. What's going on, Alex Yeet? Man, Yeet's an OG in the space, going back to at least 2017 since I've known him here.
Right.
He is a crypto OG, that's for sure. And
XRP plumbing. He's plumbing some XRP.
In South Florida. Nice. Very good. Very cool.
Oh, yeah. Trump was in the Bronx, man. That was really great.
It shocked them. And the narrative, too, is like,
man, it's great.
I might have to play some of those clips when we get a chance, but it's the narrative isn't working. There were so many white supremacists there. I mean, I was laughing. I was like, the mix of people there was amazing. And
it was great. It's so offensive. It's so offensive and just insulting. That these talking heads and these politicians on the left, the stuff they're saying. I mean, it just
nothing
so
else,
offensive.
man. What do you when you don't have they've got nothing though, Jeff. That's the whole point. They've got nothing
but offensive.
So let's talk a little bit about Tom Emmer, who's been on the broadcast. Let's talk about Tom Emmer, because Tom Emmer authored this bill, this anti-CBDC. He's been really a proponent of it, and it did pass the House. But let's listen to him talk about it a little bit here.
This week, House Republicans, as Blake just said, are going to take action to safeguard our American values by passing my bill, the CBDC, or the Central Bank Digital Currency Anti-Surveillance State Act. With this legislation, we're going to stop unelected bureaucrats in the Biden administration from using a central bank digital currency, again, a CBDC, that threatens to destroy the American way of life. Unlike decentralized digital assets such as Bitcoin, CBDCs are a digital form of sovereign currency designed, issued, and monitored by the federal government. In short, a CBDC is a government-controlled, programmable money that, if not designed to be just like cash, open, permissionless, and private with a capital P, it not only could, it will give the federal government significant transaction level data on individuals and the ability to suppress politically unpopular activity. We've already seen examples of foreign governments weaponizing their financial system against their citizens. In China, the Communist Party actually has the digital yuan that is being used to monitor its citizens, and they are building social scores based on behaviors. Again, that's an anti-American approach. Close to home in the Western Hemisphere, Canada froze the bank accounts of hundreds of truckers protesting the vaccine mandate in 2022. If you think it can happen, think again. It has, and it will if we allow this to happen here. It's naive to believe that your government will not weaponize the tools that it has to control you. This may be why the Biden administration issued an executive order placing urgency on CBDC research and development. All signals point towards this administration developing a CBDC that can and will be used to surveil and control Americans. The Federal Reserve has even described it. Don't listen to them when they tell you that they're not doing anything. The Federal Reserve has already described CBDCs as one of their key duties in a document that was provided to my office. In doing this, the Biden administration has proven they are itching to trade Americans' right to privacy for a CCP-style surveillance tool. House Republicans are not going to let that happen. 165 members of our conference have co-sponsored our CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act, and it has garnered wide industry support. This bill ensures that Congress, not the administration or the administrative state more specifically, retains the authority over the United States digital currency policy so that it reflects our American values of privacy, individual sovereignty, and free market competitiveness. If not open, permissionless, and private, again with a capital P, like cash, a CBDC is nothing more than a big government surveillance tool that will be weaponized to oppress Americans' freedom and right to privacy. I encourage all of my colleagues, Republican and Democrat, to support this bill, which protects innovation and defends against an ever-expanding government surveillance state. With that, I yield to our majority leader.
He's yielding. It's like you're not in the chamber, dude. You don't have to yield. It's a press conference, but they're so used to yielding time. But what's interesting about that is, wait, hey, before you put that up there, I want to put this up first. Just let me hang on one second. Let's lead into that. But look, let's look at the vote. Okay, let's look at the vote here. Now, 213 yeas from the Republicans.
Yep.
You had 100. So you have 192 Democrats who are all for centralized control and programmable money. Now, this is great because we know this isn't going to pass the Senate. We know it's going to get vetoed. Even if it passed the Senate, it would get vetoed. But what's happening here is on an election cycle, you're putting them on record for their votes. It's just like, oh, how do you feel about it? Well, I'm not. And then okay, well, there's your vote right there. So 3 people. So I'm sure that maybe Richie Torres is one of them. Maybe
who voted on this.
Yeah, find out who the yeas were.
I'm trying to find. I see the the co-sponsors. So I'm trying to see if there were any D's. There are 165 co-sponsors, not one Democrat. that I
You
can
know, so
find.
if
None.
if anyone's
Not one.
questioning who the party of freedom is, it's not the Democrats, okay? It's not the left side. They want control. They want,
Zero.
they wanna be the overlords. They wanna
Yep.
tell you what you can do. It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. You're about 20 pounds overweight, and I just don't think you should be buying Twinkies anymore," whatever they are. They don't even make those anymore. It's like you're gonna ice cream, right? Whatever it is, they could, and I'm using a ridiculous example because the example I'd like to use, I probably shouldn't here, but
Mhm.
that's it. If you disagree with something that somebody said, then well, that's another thing. And then we saw that happen, which Tom Emmer described what happened in Canada, Jeff. So what are your thoughts on the fact that this was so lopsided, this vote?
I mean, it's kind of it was kind of obvious that it was going to be
It's true.
lopsided. I'm glad that it passed. I'm glad it passed. On the heels of the Fit bill, Fit 21. I think really important. So if you look, some of the key points that Tom Emmer was making, this is probably one of the most concerning points out of all of them, is that in 2022 there was an executive order. Right, this is signed, bypasses Congress. Comes right from the president's desk. An executive order to research CBDC, but research the development. Right? We want an R&D for the CBDCs, for central bank digital currency, and that's it. Right? So if it shows you anything, Chip, is that the powers that be, whoever are pulling the strings, want control over the people, and they want to end privacy, and that's it, full stop. No more privacy. So an anti-surveillance state act, they find that it's necessary to push that through, because at the same time, what Tom Emmer had said is that the Federal Reserve believes that this is in their purview, that they're the ones that should be controlling the CBDC, and it's in their toolbox, and they want to bring it to light.
Mhm.
Now, when we look at the act, this is interesting because it's been around since September. It finally passes. It was in the Financial Services Committee. Finally passes. If we look at the related bills, like we did the other day, we had the FIT. This came up in one of the related bills. The next related bill to this, which is it's currently it's current. So this is as of 5/22. Motion to reconsider this bill. So here's providing consideration of the bill of 4763. We'd have to look at that, but to provide for a system of regulation of digital assets by the CFTC and the SEC. So I like to see how you have the crossover of these bills. I think it's really important. Uh,
Mhm.
and this is what is coming to light, is that we sat around for all this time wondering what is the appetite of Congress to actually push forward this innovation. What exactly is going to happen? These bills have been out now for 6, 7, 8 months plus. They're finally gaining momentum, finally getting passed through House. And so that's what these guys have been doing. And they're very diligently written to go after the administration's appetite for control and obstruction of the privacy of individual citizens. And so these are well drafted. And like we talked about the other day, Chip, zero fat. There's nothing else in the bill other than what
How
it was
every
meant
bill
for.
should be, Jeff. How every
Exactly.
bill should be. So here we go.
Exactly.
So I've got to search for the yes because there's only 3 of them in here. The first one is Hayes out of Connecticut voted. He voted no. Oh, that's that's why I picked up the S in his name. I was like, why? So where is
Wadoosh.
why? Look at all the no votes. They don't want to go on record. You see what happens there?
There
They
you
don't want to
go.
go on record.
Yep.
How
Yep.
interesting is that?
Yep.
Jackson Lee, nope. Landsman, these are probably people that are up for election. They don't want to go on record
Well,
as
they're all every
saying
one
that
of
they
them.
did.
Every
Yeah,
one of them, but they're probably contested elections.
there's 3 yeses,
Where
Jeff. Why does it
there's a
say
good
3
chance they're
yeses?
going
I
to
don't
lose.
see anybody. What is it? What do they have? Is it I? What are they voting for? I mean, what am I looking for here? Why can't I?
Hmm.
There's the eyes, but how come there's no? I don't see. I just sorted by Democrat, and I don't see. Let's see. Okay, the votes. Let's see. Here we go. Yay, yay, none. How come it shows none?
Huh.
What the heck?
Oh, there we go. All parties.
All parties, great. But where's
Now
the
just go to
Dem?
Democrats.
I did, and it
Oh.
shows none. Look,
I like how it says Democratic. It's not Democratic. It's Democrat.
yeah. This is the clerk of the United States House of
These guys are
Representatives. What do you
what a
expect?
bunch of man. It just
Th-
shows you how imbecilic.
There's all the no votes right
Somebody-
there.
A bunch
Guarantee
of,
all of them are
those
for
are not
elected.
vote. They didn't vote. So let's
They
see who
didn't
that
vote.
was.
No
Yeah.
voting. Probably all
Jackson,
for I'm really
Jay
looking
Paul,
at
of course. They
Nobody
probably don't
voted
vote.
present,
a lot
which is
anyways.
another no vote. And how come it doesn't show up? Nothing shows up. Hang
Huh.
on a second. All votes. Let's see Torres.
Is it the right bill? We're looking at the right bill.
I thought so. Maybe not. Maybe it's not the right bill. This is agreeing to resolution. You know what's the
That's
wrong
why.
bill? That's what the problem
Right.
is. Roll call votes. What's the name of the bill? What is it?
50
HR what?
5403.
All right, hang on a second. Google messed me up. 5403. Let's see. No,
Just
5403. Nothing.
but
There's
HR
nothing up here.
might be too soon. But HR.
54.
Oh, there we go. There it is.
Which one is this the one right here? 5403. Okay, sorry about that.
No, that's 118th. Is that it? Oh, yeah, that's it. Sorry.
That was it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
What's this? Yeah, that was the previous Congress, right? So there's no way to drill down on this. Oh, here we go. Okay, let's go to Democrat. And there they are.
There. Here we go.
Not even
Was
not
that?
even Torres. Interesting.
Let's see how Torres voted.
He voted.
Up
Yeah.
by name.
Let's see. Let's go to all votes.
Richie, no.
He voted no.
Not voting. No, not voting. He didn't vote.
He didn't vote. Weird. He doesn't want to be on the outs with his party.
on that bill.
Yeah, they told him,
He
listen,
doesn't
dude,
vote.
you've been stepping out of line. Took him
Because
behind
he's
the
pro crypto, he would have voted yes.
He would have voted yes. And I think that by not voting is probably the party coming down hard on him.
Mhm.
Who's the other one that co-authored the token taxonomy? I don't know.
Soto.
Darren
Darren Soto.
He voted
He
no.
voted no. Interesting.
Interesting, Jeff. Interesting. We got some other ones to play here. So there's two more we're going to play.
Publish clear principles on how any proposed CBDC proposal should be evaluated. First, the U.S. dollar must remain the world's reserve currency, and our payment systems must continue to be the envy of the world. American taxpayers should benefit, not be disadvantaged by any legislation that Congress enacts. Second, the private sector must lead the way. Digital asset policies must promote private sector innovation and foster competition. That's what the bill was about yesterday, Mr. Speaker. Further, we must maintain privacy and security protections consistent with other currency transactions utilized today. That is in danger based on what the Fed is proposing. Lastly, it should come as no surprise that many Americans view a Fed-developed central bank digital currency with great skepticism, and I include myself in that category. Congress has not granted the Fed this authority, nor should it.
That's right. They don't have that authority.
Yeah, but we saw that recent shocking SCOTUS vote where they said that where they skirted basically Congress, and they said the Fed did. So that was disturbing in a lot of ways, because only Congress can grant the authority, and Congress granted authority to an authoritarian third party that is a debt instrument and charges us for everything they lend us. And who knows what their balance sheet really looks like. But I actually believe when Trump gets in, the Fed's going away. It's absolutely going bye-bye. We have more of a sovereign currency, might even be blockchain based, but it's going away. But tipping his hat towards the crypto space. And people say, like, well, why was he so anti-crypto then? Look, there's a time and a place for everything. And the way I look at it, imagine if Trump back in 2019, when they said, what do you think about Bitcoin? I love Bitcoin. I think it's the greatest thing. What do you think the rest of the crowd would have done?
Mhm.
would have completely went the other way and said, Trump endorses it. This is evil. We got to close it down, right? That's what would have happened.
Mhm.
Why? Because he endorsed ivermectin, he endorsed, HCQ, and what happened? Oh, you're a nut, you're crazy, blah blah blah, right? He was saying he was taking HCQ himself. You see what I mean? So that's I think there's a strategy to it, and I think the way you point out which party's for and which party's against is you just show the people. You can tell people all day long. Trump told everybody in the beginning, you're going to have
Mhm.
massive. He says, recession's the nice word. That's what
Right.
he was saying. He was saying there's going to be World War III, and people are like, you're crazy, dude. And now we're on the brink. So you see that it all sort of led up to that. And here's one more from Ogles here.
Reason that China, under the rule of the totalitarian Chinese Communist Party, has the most developed CBDC program. It's about control. Their CBDC enables them to combine intrusive monitoring of the public, control their lives with their Orwellian credit scores, social credit scores. Take what Canada did by cutting off money for the truckers. Look at what China's doing. If we go down this path, we're heading towards an Orwellian nightmare. My sense of Congress doubles down on the fact that the greenback is the reserve currency of the world. A CBDC undermines that, and it should not be pursued. I reserve.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't think it's so much about the reserve currency as I do think it's about. He's saying we're in an Orwellian nightmare. We're already there. We've been living the last 3
We've
years.
been- exactly.
You know,
Yeah, the Orwellian nightmare has been slowly creeping its way in, but that it's been before, that happened, not 3 years ago. Yeah, with the Patriot Act, that was one of the starting points of our Orwellian nightmare. But I think we even had prior to that, the whole construct of the Fed, the construct. There are a lot of elements of the Orwellian nightmare that, when left unchecked and allowed to have absolute power, puts us in the position that we're in. Look at Steve Willett said, personally, I believe that the People's Front of Judea should be consulted. But the question is it what happened to the Judean People's Front? From Monty Python.
yeah. Oh boy.
The People's Front of Judea. That's funny.
It is good.
Joe said, we do not get a vote to vote for president, or do we have a voting member in Congress, but with no representation, no taxation? I don't fund stupid wars like Ukraine. Uncle Sam has no right to my money, especially when they just squander it.
Well
It's
said.
used for corruptive behavior. Left
Absolutely.
unchecked.
But-
Left unchecked, Chip. That's the
Yeah, and then
biggest
you
problem
hear
here.
like Brian Steele's coming out. CBDC would enable the federal government to track Americans' financial choices. That's the other thing; they'll
Mhm.
track it, right? So what we've seen with the digital ID going into play in Australia and some other countries is they're tracking everything. And Iceland was the other one, right? You mentioned, Jeff, and the fact is that you see everything, the whole trail, audit trail. This is where you spent the money. This is what you purchased, how much you spent on food. This is what you
Mhm.
buy. This is where you buy it. It's a whole tracking system. And the digital ID is the wraparound for the central
Mhm.
bank digital currency, right? So they're tying everything to your personal ID, which is a clever way. It's not tied to the actual instrument, but it's tied to you, so they get to see every single thing. And this is one of the things too that was omitted there, where it tracks everything that you do, your financial choices. Suppose you invested in, XRP, Algorand, let's say, Bitcoin. Well, they're going to know everything you do, everything you buy is going to be tracked. And this is a really good point right here about the financial choice, just like what the Chinese Communist Party does. We had another one here from Pete Sessions. He talked about the surveillance tool, which threatens privacy. Privacy was a big issue. So I'll come up. The privacy, Jeff,
Privacy is a major issue.
of having
Major issue.
again, CCP style policy, and everybody. And it's so funny. The so-called crypto influencers are like, China is so far advanced, ahead of everyone. They had the first CBDC. Well, listen, anything to put the thumb down on your population and control them, of course they're going to do it. You see how many cameras? Go take a look at just one of the major cities. That's if you get into the cities, right? Most people don't have the pass or the social score to move around. We talk about these 15-minute
Yeah.
cities. Well, that's where you might not be able to get to a certain area because your social score is not quite high enough. And people are like, okay, nobody steals there. Nobody does that. Well, there's 24/7 camera monitoring. And you know what else they can do with cameras? Well, they can facial recognition. You know what else they can do is they can take a drone. They can hunt you down. They'll find you. They'll pinpoint you. They could have a drone and boom, take you out. That's next. That's coming.
Which think about now, and I didn't think about it until I was watching a video on it yesterday. But the new thing is now when you go through TSA, they do a facial recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Yet millions of people are pouring across our southern border unchecked. They interviewed somebody from Turkey coming across the border, and he said, "Look, I'm a decent person." He said, "But the U.S., you guys have a good right or a good reason to be afraid. You have no idea who's coming across these borders, and you need to know." And this is someone coming across. He seemed very educated, but he flew wherever he flew, paid the cartel like $10,000 to be snuck into the country because he couldn't get a visa to come here legally. So he's a good person, but he broke into this country illegally, and he paid an illegal organization to bring him in here. And yet they're doing this stuff. So what I didn't realize when I was watching this video yesterday, that the facial recognition at TSA is voluntary. So when you walk up and they're like, stand in front of that, you say, "No, thank you. I'll just give you my ID." And they'll scan your ID through the thing. And they don't do your whole facial recognition. Now, the question is, they've got all your, you're already in the system, especially if you're, if you do TSA pre-check, you go to Clear, which is a third party organization. If you've gone through all of that, the airlines, TSA, they've got everything. But Chip, I wanted to point something out, and I'm kind of looking at this, and we're saying that there's no fat in this bill, right? Typically, bills, they can be hundreds, if not thousands, of pages. That's it. And I'm sure it's going to get, but it's so clear. Why did they vote no? If you're a Democrat out there and you're watching, why did they vote no on this bill? It makes so much sense that it's so clear. It's so succinct to the point that it's talking about central bank digital currencies and what the government shouldn't do. It's all about maintaining the privacy and security of the individual. The one thing the Democrats always talk about is that they're there for the little guy. They're there to support the rights of the individual. That's what they say. They do the exact opposite. If you have to come out and continuously remind people that we're here to protect you and we're going to go and we're going to support the little guy, that they're not telling the truth. And every single one of those D's that voted no are, bad actors, every single one of them. And anyone who supports them could now be considered a bad actor because they voted no on a bill that was there to protect individual rights, the individual liberties, to protect your freedom, to protect your privacy. And it's such a clear bill. Prohibition on the Federal Reserve relating to certain products or services for individuals, and prohibition on directly issuing a CBDC. Prohibition on the Federal Reserve banks indirectly issuing a CBDC. Prohibition on the use of the CBDC for monetary policy. Here's the central bank digital currency. Kind of explain it. There's more on the central bank digital currency. There's more kind of defining protection for open, permissionless, and private currency. What about this bill did they not like? What is it that they're going to vote no on? It makes no sense. It makes absolutely zero sense. And these are the people that the left are voting for to go and vote no on a critical bill that's there to protect you. It just makes zero sense. It makes sense because we know they don't support your freedom, that we know they're against the little guy, and we know that they're there to prop up big government and a CCP style intrusion on your everyday life.
Yep. Orwell's 1984. preposterous when I read it back in the day. I was like, this will never happen. This is ridiculous. This is so preposterous. And well, the Ministry of Truth, where they rewrote everything, they said like, and then where they started erasing history and statues and trying to tell you that the 1619 project and all this other stuff that was all made up garbage. Brennan says, I pray the Fed goes away, and I might be wrong. The real person the reason that JFK was taken out against was the Federal Reserve. Well, a lot of it had to do with silver too, the way he was, but yeah, a lot of it had to do with his secret society speech, where today we call it the deep state. Now it's the secret societies, back what they called it. And 3 weeks later, he was gone. I pray Trump can do it and not be taken out. We had Sophie saying that if they voted against it, they need to make their purchases and taxes public without question. Why wouldn't they? Public servants, we have a right to know. Every stock trade, whether it's you or your family member. How about that one X account that said Pelosi stock trades and was tracking all of her trades? Because she doesn't make them, her husband makes them.
Right. Yeah.
Like $80 to $120 million. And knew exactly when to buy and knew exactly when to sell, on all this inside information in baseball.
All based on what was being voted on.
The nightmare that started before JFK taken out, the Fed needs to go away in its current form. And I firmly believe it, right? Because first of all, they failed. And you remember when Trump was president and he got on the Fed and said, you need to cut the rates. They cut it. They didn't want the heat coming on them. But if you followed Trump over the years, you followed the fact that Andrew Jackson's, photo was hanging, or a photo, but a painting was hanging in Oval Office. He got rid of the Federal Reserve. He's patterned a lot of stuff after Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson had some run-ins as well. It's amazing. We think, oh, politics is so divisive. Well, go back to the late 1700s and early 1800s if you want to see divisive, you want to see vicious stuff. And if you want to see this whole thing of privacy, the original founders, when they wrote, like Ben Franklin and stuff, when they wrote on they penned papers, and the Federalist Papers were all written under pseudonyms because they did not want to. They wanted privacy. They didn't want to put their name on it when they were back in the day when they were floating it. And then you have people like Nikki Haley that says like, everybody should be, you have your real name and your ID and everything else. It's like, well, the founders didn't do that for good reason. Nobody else wants to. I have an anon account as well. I do. I have an anon account that I can post on there that nobody knows who it is or that it's me, and it doesn't really cross over into circles. It's mostly in the politics realm. But so what? I'm running it. It's me, and I have my own personal account that's also there as well.
The politicians of the 17 and 1800s were part-time. The whole idea of representing was a part-time gig. They came to Washington, they voted, did whatever they had to do, and they went back home and worked on their farm, law practice, whatever they did, business, whatever their job was. They went back home and did it. And the whole political part, again, was meant to be part-time. At some point, it flip-flopped, and now we have career politicians that have spent their entire existence in Washington, and many of them in elected office, meaning they've never worked a real honest day in their life ever. They've just been elected officials from all their whole career. What kind of work is that? You're out there begging people for there've been no success. They've done nothing in their life to even warrant being elected, other than they might, sound good or look good. And then that's it. And they vote for them, regardless of what their background is. I mean, take somebody that worked their whole life, whether it's a lawyer or what, it doesn't matter, business, and then they run for politics at a later stage of life. And you can look back and like, man, that guy was successful. That guy's done a lot of things, or woman, in their lives. They're super successful and they did great. Now they believe they have to give back and they want to represent the people. And that's why they're going to Washington, not because they want to milk the system like so many of them that are there.
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah, Alex, she says at the end of the day, the government will be monitoring our money from the background. They've done it to our bank account, phone calls, social media, etc. They do, right? They have broken the law. We've seen that time and time again. That's a solid point there too. Also,
there you go. 3 million people, over 3 million working for the U.S. government. Can you imagine?
2,900,050. Get rid of them all.
Yeah,
how big would
exactly.
Hancock's signature would have been? That's some inside baseball stuff. You don't know who John Hancock was. Go ahead, type in John Hancock. Look at his signature. That's a funny good one. You made a funny good deal. XRP Rock says everything I've ever been taught since birth has been a lie. 50-50 on everything. The Earth might be flat. F me. All right, we're going to be bringing on a very special guest very soon, Jeff. I'm getting ready to do the booking, and we will bring that on here, and we're gonna duke it out probably like in an hour and a half, 2-hour broadcast, and we'll
have to bring a
through
sign
it.
system.
Yeah, it's all a lie. It's all about control to show that the Earth, if there's this giant, huge galaxy that's just ginormous versus, and there's other places and people and things, and you're just a speck in that dust, and you're meaningless. You're nobody. You don't matter. And this is where it's been until the founders of the U.S. broke away from the Great Britain back in the day. It had a different vision. The Magna Carta was a great idea in the 1200s, where they sort of like strong armed that one in and said, you're going to give some people some basic rights. But ultimately, it was kind of wishy-washy in some ways, where when the people forget the original Constitution was written by the people. We, the people, wrote it and said, this is how government's going to work. This is what you can't do. And it's kind of holding together. But what drives me crazy, Jeff, is all these bills we have to pass that already are based in the Constitution, right? We don't have to. Technically, you need an anti-CBDC because it's not granted in the Constitution. Only Congress can grant that power, and it's money related. Only Congress can. But then you have the SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, comes out with this ruling that they bypass Congress on funding other big government program. It's lousy that Democrats came up with. So you kind of worry about that. So maybe you have to put some extra teeth in it.
Yeah, you got to put the whole idea of any vote, an amendment or bill is that, as you put it through, it provides clarity. Right. So there's no confusion. So even if, at this point they're doing their job saying this is something brand new, right? This whole digital currency didn't exist. And we could try to apply and say, there's no powers that should have been granted. Well, now they're passing a specific bill that says you don't have the power. You can't do this. The Federal Reserve can't do it. You have to represent and protect privacy above all. Right. And it's sad that we have to go down that path, but it makes sense. It's even sadder that people voted against it, that by such a large volume. And it's also telling those who said that, like we were talking about earlier, that didn't vote for it, that decided not to vote. Some of them are, you already know what their agenda is. Maybe they just don't show up to vote anyways. But Jeff, like a Richie Torres,
but
he's kind of wishy-washy on things, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's getting a lot of probably heat from the party, but and Fetterman's been the big surprise. Now, Fetterman just went and got somebody that's been held basically hostage in a country. Went over there and brought him home. It's been a silent story, and I'm thinking, what happened to John Fetterman? His brain healed, and all of a sudden he's got logic and reason. I'm very shocked. I mean, I hope it lasts, but let's see. I mean, he's been doing some great things, and it's just surprising because before the stroke, and he was a complete one way, and he sort of transformed. Who else is against CBDCs? John Deaton is. He's also for term limits.
That's right.
But 3.5 years ago, this is John Deaton, a post on X. He said 3.5 years ago, people asked, "Why are you going up against the SEC?" And my response was, because the most important and most difficult fight against government overreach. Today, people ask, "So why are you going up against the most entrenched Washington elite insider with Elizabeth Warren?" My response, because it's the most important and most difficult fight against government overreach. This is the proof. I'll play the little clip for you. Here it is.
A central bank digital currency.
Are you there?
Oh, for a central bank digital currency?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there you are. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I am. Yes, for control. This woman is a fraud.
She's definitely a fraud.
She's a grifter. She's a massive loser. Okay.
So let's do a central bank digital currency.
Are you there?
Oh, for a central bank digital currency? Yes.
Of course she is.
Of course she is. Control, baby.
And says the person that misappropriated somebody else's culture for her own benefit, her own gains.
Yeah, and
throughout her
then
entire life.
in a lie. If
Yeah,
you're
all
less
based
than
on a lie.
tenth
All
of
based on a
1%
lie.
Native American and you basically hustled your way into a $400,000 a year tenured position as a professor on a
Based
lie
on that culture.
at a law school because you said you were Native American and that was a lie, and
Yeah.
then you get to stay in Congress. I don't care. If I was John Deaton, I'd parrot that all day long. I'd say, listen, you defrauded the people. You
Yep.
you're a fraud, and your basic tenet of your whole entire life is based on a lie. So why would anybody
Horrible.
trust you anything? And she
Yeah.
didn't know Mama or Papa had high cheekbones. A lot of people have high cheekbones. I don't think they're Native American. I mean, it's crazy.
It's what's so pathetic about it is that she wasn't required to issue an apology, and she wasn't pushed by the Senate Ethics Committee to resign in disgrace. And they could have even given an option. Say, look, step down and just resign and have somebody replace you, because this is just a bad view. It's not good. No, they didn't do that, because they're so corrupted. It comes down to they don't care about the people. They're in office strictly for the power. Never cared about the people from day one. I don't care what they said. You don't misappropriate someone else's culture for your benefit and then take any type of opportunities. And like you said, she was in that university getting paid $400,000 per year with the assumption that she was Native American. I mean, that the whole thing, that was the whole point. So I would even go so far as that she should probably have a retroactively take away the degrees that she earned, because of it. It's all based on a lie, similar to Biden when he cheated in law school at Syracuse University and he graduated at the bottom of his class in the end. But when he cheated and plagiarized somebody else's work, right there, that should have been enough. Out. You get kicked out of school. You don't plagiarize someone else's work. The whole thing. It was like 3/4 of his whole project that he wrote was plagiarized from somebody else. Out you go. Get out of there, right? Then he actually did have to step out of his one of his campaigns. I think it was when he was running for president years ago. They found that he had plagiarized his speeches when he was running for Congress, and that all of this media came out. When he plagiarized in school, when he plagiarized a speech when he was running for Congress, like all these different things came out. He stepped down from running for president in those years because of it, and it was big media. Like all the news came out, and that's all they could talk about was how he plagiarized, and it was a big deal back then. But how does even an individual like that? You cheat in school, you cheat on a congressional campaign, you cheat on a presidential campaign because you're plagiarizing people's speeches and people out you and take you out. And yet this individual somehow still gets into the Senate again, another career politician right out of law school goes right into politics, never worked a real day in his life because he's in politics, ends up being a vice president, and now he's a resident of the White House. And here's someone that's cheated from day one, in law school. I mean, it just shows you how morally decrepit their party is, because these are the people that they want front and center, and these are the people that people elect. I mean, it's crazy to me, But when you get good people, decent people, they won't run because it's such a corrupted environment. But again, we think it's just now that it's been corrupted. There's the guy, the resident in the White House that's been around, for decades. And so politics got corrupted a long time ago, with the lying and the cheating. And Alex is right. He's perfect. Not only, he's perfect for government, but he's perfect for the position that he's in right now. 100% perfect. And that's where, it all goes. Jim D said, Pocahontas Warren runs money for government deep state through Native American casinos, money laundering. Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not sure. I don't know that that's accurate, but I don't know if it's true. I don't know.
Say this. This wasn't on the slate of things, but I bookmark stuff all the time, and I was able to pull this up. This wasn't on the slate, but since you brought it up, Jeff, this is so funny when you have Biden saying Trump is racist and he doesn't like black people, he doesn't like Hispanic people, all this stuff. He was the only thing he actually accomplished was the Biden crime bill, which incarcerated a mass amount of African American, mostly men. This was his doing. This is what he wanted. And you want to look who the racist guy is. Let's play this. You guys judge for yourself. I'm not saying one thing or the other, but here's a little piece that was put together and trimmed down for just for today.
The penalties, increase them. I would put the son of a gun in jail. Put them to death. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask, what made them do this? They must be taken off the street. Let the FBI agents buy weapons as powerful as the drug cartels had. They're getting beat up. Biden crime bill, the Biden crime bill, the Biden crime bill. Hell, we've got crime bills coming out our ears. Every major crime bill since 1976, every minor crime bill has had the name of the Democratic senator from the state of Delaware, Joe Biden. You got a gun, you commit a felony, 10 years. We already have it 5 years. Minimum mandatory. Judge can't say, you had it in your pocket, you never intended to use it, we're only going to give you 1 year. Judge has to say 5 years. Well, he wants to make it 10 or 20 or 60. We can work that out.
He wanted to remove judicial discretion for those who, quote, don't meet the middle-class criteria of susceptibility to rehabilitation.
They are beyond the pale, many of those people. They literally have not been socialized. They are in jail. Away from my mother, your husband, our families.
The Biden-Thurmond Violent Crime Control Act of 1991 would have increased the maximum sentence for 44 crimes to include the death penalty.
A wag in the newspaper recently wrote, Biden has made it a death penalty offense for everything but jaywalking. 60 new death penalties, brand new, 60. There are 70 additional enhancements of penalties, i.e. you go to jail longer.
After his disastrous 1987 presidential campaign, Biden had staged his political comeback, in part by becoming a media darling on issues of policing and crime. And he led the fight to pass the landmark 1994 crime bill under Bill Clinton.
When I wrote the original bill that started this whole process, the so-called Biden crime bill, I didn't call a liberal confab and write it. I didn't call any big society people and write it. I called the cops. A Democratic president wants 100,000 cops. A Democratic president wants to build 125,000 new prison cells. That's the secret. That somehow the Republicans tried to make the crime bill tougher. I say, poppycock. They didn't make anything tougher. I wrote that bill.
He convinced Republicans to support urban community programs as a way to keep inner-city kids away from respectable families.
I started looking at it, found out that this midnight basketball isn't getting them together a bunch of jive folks who are black, white, and Hispanic, living in their city to do, try to see if they can be Michael Jordan. When they found out that we're keeping schools open, so gangs come off streets instead of out raping my mother, marauding me, robbing the local store. They're in a gymnasium. And my daughter will be safer. My wife will be safer. My mother will be safer. And I will be safer. And I will be happy.
When Biden ran for president in 2008, he told the New York Times that he knew more people would be locked up across the board, but that it would drive down crime. In fact, crime rates were already falling when Biden pushed for the passage of the '94 crime bill, and they have continued falling as the prison population has declined in recent years.
You ashamed of that bill?
Not at all. In fact, I drafted the bill. We had enormous success.
The mass incarceration created by Biden's lock-em-up policies ripped apart vulnerable communities and families for a generation.
There you go. Judge for yourself.
Exactly. The other thing is you look at how he was, man. Big shout out to Davey X. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Davey.
Thank you for the support. The thing about, how look at how his mental state, he had no stutter, no issues, mentally,
The facial
And
structure
now,
of the ear, it's
yeah,
not the same.
and now you see him, right? Now you
Not
see
even
him. The guy can't even speak. That he's just obviously he's the guy that's there right now has dementia and is significantly older. Look at the two characters. Oh my God! I mean, it's unbelievable. And they're going to pass that off as normalcy somehow. I was watching something with Don Lemon, and he was talking about how like trying to say that Trump was forgetful and not mentally sound, and he's gonna, if he gets back into government, he's gonna be a fascist and all this stuff. And here you have fascism playing out in front of you, as look at that behavior, and then look at the voting no on the CBDC anti-surveillance act. They all voted no. That's not fascism, where they want to take away your privacy. I think that is fascism. It's exactly what that is. They take away your privacy, usurp the power, monitor everything you do, control everything you do. But 4 years with Trump, and the economy was better. More people were employed across the board. There was zero appearance of fascism and this control they talk about. It was the exact opposite. It was the shrinking of government. It was a whole bunch of things, bringing back the power to the hands of the people. I mean, it's just so crazy, the whole
Tim
thing.
D says, "Too bad Biden didn't present a crime bill to banish government to fix the biggest crimes."
Right, exactly. That would have been a
Would've
good one.
That would have been pretty good. Let's segue a little bit here. I want
Yeah,
to
we
segue
gotta
over.
segue into stuff. Geopolitics or monetary policy. I choose to go to
Yeah.
China every day of the week. What? You'll go to China instead of the US? Come on.
So look at this. For Brad Garlinghouse tweeted this out. Or posted on X. For whatever reasons, I've been hanging on this one for a while. Probably my all-time favorite from the XRP community. It's been hanging on my wall in my house. With all this momentum in the market, I wanted to share it, and it's basically this kind of like a chimpanzee, an ape. I don't know which one it is.
Sure.
With a little, wearing a board. It says "Laugh now, but one day XRP will power the world."
That's
Okay. So, just when you thought like you're not going to buy into all that hype and stuff, and but again, on Ledger said, "Read the bloody room, Brad Garlinghouse. Read the bloody room. Now is not the time to give the community more false tweeting. This is totally irresponsible, and you know it."
Hmm.
That's the way some people sort of reacted to it, Jeff. Daniel
I
from
just think it's funny.
Casino Coin
I think it's funny.
actually put out a really cool post. He said, "This is the video that the XRP community should have made." And let's watch this video right here and tell me if you know who pops up at the end here. Let me see.
The dog is climbing into a cardboard box.
There we go. Watch this. This is when Daniel from Casino Coin said this should have been the XRP community making this commercial.
Hey, morning. Hey. Hello.
Hey.
You guys take Bitcoin, right? Sure do.
I'm gonna be paying with Ethereum if that's okay.
Okay, yep, no problems.
It's a good thing I'm paying with Solana.
You can go ahead and tap.
And there we go.
Oh, it failed. Try it again. Hold up there, Smart. It looks like it's gonna be another 27 minutes before this transaction clears.
What? Sorry, $112. I have like 3 things.
Ethereum, they got that peak hour gas thing.
There you go.
Maybe one more time. What are you gonna do? Just wait right here, without the bag,
I think it's gonna work this time.
Nope. Should have shot with Algorand.
How do I get in that line?
Mooch. The Mooch mix.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Look at this, though. I mean, honestly, this is a phenomenal commercial pointing out your Solana failed, servers down, right? Bitcoin, transactions take too long, and then we've got Ethereum with the high gas fee, instant finality. He's designed to life, Algorand.
Should have shot with Algorand.
How do I get in that line?
That's too funny.
It's good, right?
Funny.
It's a commercial, honestly. Yeah, it does.
But
again,
XRP definitely. You know what else fixes that shit? A credit card.
Credit card fixes it too.
I still don't understand that. Why, if you inherent full privacy and you want to spend cash, and we're forced into a digital economy away from any type of paper currency, and you have the option, I guess, from that perspective, then let's use something that is fast, like an XRP, with little cost, and we'll see how that all unfolds. Very funny overall, because that's the experience online whenever you're trying to move any of those assets, especially Ethereum, anything Ethereum based. Transaction costs are always ridiculous. It's crazy.
Look at this right here. This is the president of El Salvador, Bukele here.
Coming out of
making
more
some
good news
interest-
coming out of El Salvador.
making some interesting points on this video here.
I talk to my conservative friends right here. They always tell me that the problem is high taxes, but they're wrong. The real problem is not the high taxes themselves, but the fact that they are not even really funding the government. Not even those high taxes, higher than a lot of places in the world, not even those taxes are really funding the government. So who's financing the government? Government is financed by treasury bonds, paper. And who buys the treasury bonds? Mostly the Fed. And how does the Fed buy them? By printing money. But what backing does the Fed have for that money being printed? The treasury bonds themselves. So basically, you finance the government by printing money out of thin air. Someone could ask, well, so if the government can print the limited amounts of money out of thin air, why do they collect taxes? The answer is simple, but it's very shocking. The real problem is that you pay high taxes only to uphold the illusion that you are funding the government, which you are not.
Man, that speech comes on the heels of those representatives. We saw the Biden, I forget what his title was, of economic blah, 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 whatever. It couldn't answer the question. Then the guy over in Europe, similar position, couldn't answer the question. Bukele comes out, answers it, clarifies it, and tells the truth. And that's the point. They're printing money into and they're gonna keep printing money, and you're seeing a complete devaluation of the currency and the cost of goods today. If you go to other countries and you see what the cost of food is, and it's very low, and it's what's the difference? Like, why would pharmaceuticals be cheaper in Canada, as an example? Even though the government of Canada probably has some, may or may not have an offset, but let's go to Mexico. Why are many of those pharmaceuticals less expensive in Mexico? Why is the prevalence of certain illnesses like cancer more prevalent in the U.S. than anywhere else in the world? There's so many unanswered questions on how this whole system, through the printing of money, to certain cost of goods, to the overall devaluations of our currencies here, inflation, all these different elements. It's very telling.
Yeah, this is why if they can print money that we're supposed to know about, what about the money they can print in the background and create shell companies and then invest in countries, invest in China, invest all over the world? And what's their balance sheet really look like? Because I'm not buying that they're on the up and up, and they wouldn't be just printing money to go put someplace else. Like, it doesn't pass the sniff test there.
And you think about the taxes on everything, right? You're paying, first and foremost, you pay income tax. Depending on what state you live in, you pay federal income and state income tax. And then everything else, real estate, you're paying tax on your real estate. You're paying tax on your car. You're paying tax on your gas. You're paying tax on any product you purchase. And then you have, now you have to have insurance, right? Car insurance, homeowners insurance. Then you have addendums to your insurance policies, flood insurance. If you have jewelry, you're going to have an addendum to your regular insurance for another insurance policy on jewelry and things like that. That you're getting fleeced left and right. The amount of money, if your tax rate's 30-35%, by the time you pay all those taxes and all those, ancillaries. And now the big thing are the memberships, right? Everywhere, every direction you look, you have a membership, right? And these, if you want to watch ESPN Plus, membership. You want to watch a movie on Apple TV, membership. You want to watch Netflix, membership. Amazon, membership. and then they break it down. How much money do people have left? And the cost of food is skyrocketing. It used to be you'd go into the grocery store for $70 or $80. Now it's $120, $130 for less, and this is the reality, the reality.
Oh, that was a depressing a little bit, Jeff. But it's
But
the
that's why it's so
reality.
critical. It's so critical, Chip, for crypto.
I wanted to
grow.
congratulate guys over at Moai Finance, which we had the pleasure of meeting in. These guys are from Korea.
Oh yeah, these guys were great. Yep.
Really fantastic, right? And so they won they were chosen for the XRPL grant. It's funded by Ripple, foster innovation within the XRP ledger. And out of 132 projects that were submitted, they actually were the ones that made it. So big, huge congrats there.
And I'm happy they got some support there, and they're in the finance space, which is awesome.
Yeah,
and over in South Korea, which is awesome.
And there really weren't that many projects that were taken right here. So I thought this was an interesting one. This has gotta be XRP right here, and this is a CEO. His project is the ARC Institute. We're revolutionizing the way the best charities are funded using blockchain. It's built on the XRPL. He said, "I'm responding to this." Who's some Kai from XPunks. A CEO of a company on the XRPL. A few weeks ago, I received an email from Ripple letting me know that I was denied grant funding for ARC Institute with no real explanation. I understand and share this frustration since nobody at my company has been paid, but it isn't Ripple's job to fund us, just like it's not the government's job to supply me with healthcare. Thought that was easy. Interesting there. Panos said he had to disagree. It isn't Ripple's job to fund you, but they were the ones who stepped in, committed 1 billion XRP to the grants program, and they're the ones that are running it. So do it right or don't do it at all. You could only say that if it wasn't a grants program, right? 1 billion XRP, they funded 3% of that so far, and all these other get sucked down. And PS, it's absolutely the government's job to supply us healthcare. That's why one of the reasons we pay taxes, and he's over in Greece. At least that's what happened. I am in the EU. Got to be XRP. We disagree on this issue. The more government supplies you, the more they will use that as an excuse to tax you more. In the US, everything the government touches has gone to crap. Shit. The free market is and always will be better at solving problems. When you have cancer, it can cost $200,000 per treatment. My dad beat cancer from changing his diet, detoxing, and changing the pH level of his body. Food, medicine. This is a guy that believes in, sort of like, the freedom.
Yeah,
there's a whole bunch of ones. I know I went to hear
they're kind of talking. They're kind of talking along a similar path, and what Panos was saying is they created a grant program to further develop the community, and then they have a weird process of deciding who gets the grant funds to develop in the community. We're trying to develop projects on the XRPL. So I don't think Panos was saying that there is an inherent right to the funds, but if you're going to say to the community, hey, we're going to help build the community. We understand that funding is a big issue. We know there's a lot of great projects out there. And by the way, we're going to set aside $1 billion or 1 billion XRP, whatever the number was, to support that, to support the development. And then it comes down to it, and you give away 1%, 2%, 3% of the total amount that was set aside for the community. And of the 1%, 2%, 3%, you notice that many of the projects have failed on liftoff or pre-liftoff. So they're giving funds to projects that probably aren't going to succeed, and many of those projects were or seemingly had a specific woke political slant to them. You could say. And I think from that perspective, if you're going to have a grant program, you want to develop the community and help build it at rapid lightning speed. Don't let all the other, projects build up on all these other chains and then neglect, if you want it to be successful, otherwise don't have the grant program. Just pull it back and say, look, we don't have a grant program, or here's the criteria, and we're only going to give X amount of grant money per year for the next 2 decades. create. And I think that would create a little clarity. I disagree with Panos that the role of government is to provide free healthcare. I think that kind of deviated from the conversation of what they were talking about in terms of the grant program. What do you think, Chip?
Well, I think so too. I mean, but I think that it's. I was looking for my comment on that because I comment on a lot of stuff, and unfortunately, it's impossible to find on even if I
Really
search
hard
my
to
name.
drill it down. Yeah.
It's impossible to find any of this stuff. It's kind of bizarro to me, but I did post on that. Yeah, I think this is it right here. Yeah, okay, I did find it. Interesting. So,
$7 per gallon over in Belgium.
so here we go. Back up. So, here we go. Let's go. Arthur, who he co-founded XP Market, and he said he's from Europe. It's literally the government's job to supply us with the healthcare here. And I said, well, what did I say here? I don't know. I can't get rid of this. This is mind-boggling, man. In the United States, it isn't the government's role to provide healthcare. The government's duty is to adhere to the Constitution, which was crafted by we the people. This is the only Constitution that specifies what the government cannot do. You're not guaranteed healthcare. You're not guaranteed life. You're not guaranteed anything. You're guaranteed the pursuit of happiness. You can choose for yourself. And I saw a really interesting meme. It was a picture of a lion in a cage, and it said, free healthcare, free food, free shelter, free clothing. And it showed a lion in the wild. It said, this lion has to make choices that benefits its life, right? So which one do you want? You want the one where you're in jail, you're going to rely. And listen, I don't care who's running the show. Government's bad, period. Ron Reagan said it, Ronald Reagan, not Ron Reagan, not the son. From the government, I'm here to help. The 7 most terrifying words in the English language. Government should be the end all be all. And we got to get back to limited government, which is what the founders wanted, a smaller government, and do that. There's a couple things.
And to tell you the truth on that, Chip, I would rather pay cash all day long for my healthcare.
Absolutely.
I don't want insurance coverage for general everyday coverage. I choose my doctor. I currently pay cash. I pay monthly to go see.
Cash doctor.
Right.
Cash
we're both go to the same place. But and it's really important to go, see and to get the kind of level of treatment that you want that's going to benefit your life long term. You're not going to get that in sick care. You're not going to get that in insurance-based medicine because their objective isn't to provide longevity. It's to put Band-Aids on things. And what you need is emergency coverage. If you get into an accident, if something catastrophic happens, if you get too sick, you have to go to the emergency room. You have to go into the hospital. That's what you need, some stipend. But even then, the reason why the cost is so high is because it's been left unchecked due to the insurance and the way it's funded through like Medicare or Medicaid. And, then the hospitals rely a certain amount on, and then, the privates, and then they charge you 50,000. I don't know what the number is, but ridiculous amounts of money per day, just to occupy a bed. And then they look at, that you're basically a number on a spreadsheet. But still, the emergency care, even now today, if you want to get a CT or an MRI, the distinction between our healthcare in the US and anywhere else in the world, granted, other than maybe, go over to India, and I saw how they run their CTs and MRIs like 24 hours a day, and they charge like $150 to maybe like $300 for an MRI or something like that. Over here, it can get to the point where it's affordable. Right now, you can go get a full body MRI any day of the week. Go schedule your appointment, get a full body MRI. It's like, I don't know, $1,800 to $2,500. And you'll know everything that's going on in your body. That type of stuff is available here. A lot of countries, you can't even go over to the UK and try to get imaging. Try to go see a specialist. You can't. It's not possible. They don't have a lot of imaging. They don't have private. You can't go pay for a CT or an MRI. It's hard to find. Although I started to see kind of this longevity, IV therapy, hormone treatment, all this stuff, like testosterone stuff. I saw a lot of those locations when we were over there last summer. I thought that was interesting. I didn't go in and talk to them, but I thought that was interesting to see that kind of medicine is developing over there as well. But imaging and the necessities. I saw a video, a woman from Canada came to a hospital in the US. She said she was in and out within like 25, 30 minutes. over in Canada, she said it would have been a whole day event. And
Government
and
Jeff,
you know, what's that?
when the government runs your healthcare, they choose, right? Versus
Yeah,
you
they choose
choosing.
what you want. Yeah, that's the point.
The difference is like a typical blood panel, getting 14 blood panels, and you're like 14 blood panels. Yeah, because they're running stuff that are and a regular doctor will say you're in the limits of that the
Oh, right, yeah.
government wish that you're in the limits. Well, when you're running when you're dealing with proactive healthcare, no, you're not trying to hit the targets the government gives a shit about. You're trying to hit the targets that you care about. You're trying to, it's without getting into a whole lengthy thing, but it's a different approach, and it's a worthy approach, in the sense that the proactiveness of guiding your health is going to be very different. Like, for example, my mother has leukemia, and the chemotherapy, after 6 weeks, her platelet count went down to 8. It's supposed to be 300. It went down to 8 platelets. She was getting transfusions, and a guy named Joe Tippins, who happens to be a guy who had stage 4 lung cancer. They told him, "Yeah, you've been having this cough, whatever. You're not feeling good. Yeah, stage 4 lung cancer. Go home, say goodbye to your family, go to hospice." How long? I don't know. A week, 3 months. Nobody knows. Gets a call from an old family friend who happened to be doing some veterinarian research. They were testing, or he knows of, it wasn't him doing the research, but he knows of something like 80 rats that were given cancer, and they were looking at trying to figure out a treatment. Well, they all got worms, so they were put on something called fenbendazole. And then from fenbendazole, they went ahead and treated them for at least a month. And when they retested the rats, none of them had cancer. He goes, "I don't know if this works. I don't know anything about it." Guy Joe Tippins is still alive, been alive for 6, 7, 8 years from stage 4 lung cancer. Fenbendazole is very inexpensive. Costs like $80 for like 6 months worth of treatment. And I gave my mom, showed it to her, did the option. There's a whole, it's all natural stuff, the other stuff, and gave it to her, and her platelet count went over 240. And it's amazing to see that treatment worked. There's a lot of things. Somebody else said, we saw that thing where he said, I cured my father, got his own cancer, right? We talked about that CEO. He said he changed his diet. If you have a certain pH in your body, even a petri dish, a certain pH that's high enough, nothing can grow in it. If you have toxicity, if you have a very, so there's a lot of things when it comes to health that, people, and the funny thing is, my mom's neighbor, 2 of her neighbors, where she lives in a retirement 55 and older community, she had said, like, "Hey, my son introduced me to something that's been really working for me." And this is how ingrained the doctrine is of growing up with something. They said, "Oh, we're not those kind of people." Well, he died like 2 months later. And then her other next door neighbor that also she said, now we don't know that it would have worked, right? Nobody knows, but you're willing to try stuff. The other neighbor passed away. So, you had 2 people. My mom, God, bless her. She's got some other things going on that, threatening her health. But if you think about an oncologist derives 70% of their income from chemo. If chemo goes away tomorrow, they're out of business. They're not going to be able to pay the bills and leave the lights on. So there's a lot of stuff when it comes to medicine. And when the government's running it, and the government tells you what it is, I'd rather go to somebody, like Jeff said, and pay them cash and get the treatment that I want, that I'm in control of, that I have a say over, versus somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That was long. There you go.
No, that's so critical, to even talk about. It's a little off of the crypto topic, but it isn't. That's the whole thing, DeFi. Let's DeFi our lives. We want decentralization in our lives, whether it's healthcare or financial or whatever it might be, full control. That's really important. Look at that, what Jim D is saying.
Read that.
Go ahead.
Doctors are just pharma salespeople. I got dinged for having super good high HDL cholesterol and athletic teen level testosterone, 1325. It's very good, man. A carnivore doctor wanted to fix me. Yeah, the funny thing is that HDL and all that stuff too. If you look at that too, it's all garbage. If you look at if you look at Alzheimer's, you look at this, a lot of things we didn't have is because we stopped, your brain is like 80, 90% fat. So you have to certain things you have to have, and we were like, oh no, don't eat the eggs, eat the white part, don't eat the butter, no, that's the bad part, don't eat the lard, that's the bad part. Meanwhile, this is how our grandparents and their grandparents survived for years and lived to be ripe old age, right? So it's
Yeah, I think about that. My grandmother lived to 102. My great aunt lived to like 98,
how'd they eat?
99. Yeah, they just ate and cooked right, just regular foods, I guess. And my grandmother was hilarious because she was super kind of petite, but in her, I remember she was in her late 90s and she'd tie her shirt up and she would walk around. She lived down in South Florida, and she'd say, I dress like this because I still can walk around. She would be out walking and, exercising. And, it was the mental part in later in life that started becoming difficult, where my parents had moved her those years ago, moved her up to New York. So they, could watch her and everything. But then she was like 98 at that point. I remember going out to drive with her, and I got in the car and we're trying to cross the intersection. She was up in Lake Worth, and we're crossing a busy intersection, and she's sitting next to me. I'm in her car. She had a little Saturn. She said, go, go, go. Like, are you kidding? Like, there's traffic coming. She said, you got to go while the getting's good.
Wasn't risky.
There was no good to get, but that's how she drove.
Right,
Oh my God. That's
her whole
terrible.
life. So she was alone. She wanted to drive. She had a car, and I said, "Okay." She had come to our house, and I said, "Okay, follow me back." And this is kind of before really mobile phones were around. I'm like, she's following me. She's following me. I have my right signal on. She puts her right signal on. I turn right. She keeps going straight. She was like, she had no, and now I had to circle back and try to find her. And she was just driving, pulled up next to her. I'm trying to get her attention. She's just sitting there driving, trying to stand on the road. I'm like, she was somebody should have not been granted a license. She wasn't safe on the roads. And it's and I remember the one conversation where she wasn't supposed to smoke anymore, but she sneak out in the garage and have a quick cigarette. And she wanted to talk to me, and she brought me out in the garage, and she lit up a cigarette, and she goes, "So what's going on? You want to have a conversation?" She goes, "I'm scared." I'm like, "What are you scared about?" She goes, "I'm starting to lose it. I know I'm starting to lose it. My mind's not what it was, and I'm starting to just forget things, and things are." So she knew the onset of dementia was there, and never forget that when she was committed to the hospital, and she was, and I went up to see her. I knew it was the last time I'd see her. I knew it, and weird feeling when I went into the hospital room and spent some time, and she was pretty much out of it. Every once in a while, she'd wake up and have this. She was a very funny lady and a very sarcastic lady, and she would have these funny little things or songs that she would say, and then she'd kind of go back down out of it again. We're like, okay, there was Graham for a few minutes, but. And I remember walking out of the hospital. I walked down the hall. I realized this is the last time I'm going to see her. I walk all the way back to just take one more glance at her. She leans up, which she hadn't done. She looked over and she waves to me. And it was eerie, man. It got me right here, man. I was like, holy shit. How did she know I was there? How did she know I came back? And
man.
She never leaned up or anything the whole time we were there. It was something. It was one of those times, man. It was just like got you in the feels,
Yep. Man, that's same thing. I wasn't there for my great aunt. I remember going to visit her the night before she had died. She'd been in and out of the hospital so many times, but she was like 98, but she was in good condition. What would get her would be she would get a cold and get pneumonia. And that's what put her into the hospital, and then the last time she would recover, go back home, everything's right. But then the last time I went to visit, and I was like, oh, this is the same thing. This will probably be the last time I see her. And it was, and you just have that feeling. It's just a weird feeling.
Weird feeling. It's eerie, man. It's weird. It's eerie. It's that's kind of how it is. But anyway, listen, guys, I mean,
on those notes,
on those,
but man, I'll tell you, back in years and years ago, my grandfather owned pharmacies. And the stories that I hear, from back then, what it used to be like in the pharmacies, because they used to have the fountain soda, people would come in for the fountain drinks and stuff like that. But the way he would mix and people would come in, they were sick. Many times, back then they would give sugar pills because it was more of a mental thing. If someone came in for a cold or whatever, say, here, take this, and people would start feeling better. but he'd say, take this orange juice. And they would give like a whole, idea of what to take way back then,
Yeah,
and
well,
it was a
it's
different world.
one of the things I've recommended this program. A couple people have heard me tell the story. That people texted me, "Hey, I just found out somebody in my family. Tell me what that thing was." I said, "What's really important to them is to show them the Joe Tippins video. Show them a couple of videos of him talking about it, because don't tell them they have to take it. Tell them they have to choose it." With my mom, I said, "Listen, I'm going to show you this. I have all the meds, but it's your choice whether you want to try it or not. I'm not going to, be." And Jeff, it goes back to that whole thing of the belief system. You have to
Yeah.
believe. You have to
Right.
believe on top of whatever you're going to undertake. I said, show them the video, choose if they want to do it or not. It's up to them. And she said, I want to try it. And that was it. I wasn't saying like, here's what you're going to do. And no, it was none of that. I wanted her to choose it. I wanted her to try it, but it was up to her. It was her choice to whether she'd do it or not. And that belief system is big, and it's been documented.
Critical.
People's and tests, they're very, you have a lot of people who just get better because they believed that it could work. So that mental state is also powerful along with, whatever you're doing. So
what our brains are capable of, I don't think, and it's a difficult thing, because we're surrounded by so much negativity. And then we'll pump pharmaceuticals into our body that will, cause more problem. But it's also that, like you said, that mental state, the power of belief with everything that we do all day long, staying positive and trying to get all the and we're surrounded by negative news all day. And that's also part of the objective. They want to keep people in a depressed, negative state.
Right.
The US is, I think, one of only 2 countries in the world that allow pharmaceutical commercials. And we have the highest level of depression, I think, in the US, and pharmaceuticals given for a depressive state. And a lot of it comes down to mental clarity, and then also what we eat, the glutens in the foods, sugar. And Steve is talking about, sugar. Sugar is horrible. And they'll give cancer patients candy, and they should have zero sugar.
Right. No
Cut out all
sugar.
processed sugars as a basic starting point.
Right. You're having a very high level of acid in your body. What does this mean, Robert? I just got cut in Australia. I don't know. You got cut from the national team? I don't know what that means. I'm not sure.
The national team, man.
I don't know what that means. Cut from Australia. They threw you out. I'm not sure what that means. But anyway.
As a vassal of the US, still don't understand.
Vassal of the US, yeah. Well, not really, because you
trying to understand the Australian accent, like they're slang certain things they say. Like
a vessel, I think, is what he's trying to say. It's a vessel of the US. It really isn't, because you guys you guys had some severe lockdowns with camps. We didn't get that far into it, though it was probably right around the corner. You also adopted the digital ID, which that's not happening here. We're not going to be. It's already an authoritarian state over there. So
ivermectin. You can say that now. You can say ivermectin.
You can say ivermectin, because I took that. That's what cured me, and it was thanks to Jeff that he put me in touch with the right doctor that could prescribe it for me. And boom, I was done, because I did not get it.
But now they talk about how beneficial ivermectin is. There's a doctor that she's talked a lot about ivermectin.
But you see that now there's a doctor now, an oncologist, who said it's cured 80% of her patients. She's giving it for patients.
All sorts of stuff.
And then
be interesting just to try to take it and see what happens.
I know somebody that takes that and another pill for prevention.
It's safe to take. There's no issue. That's what when you read about it, and it's cheap.
And no farmer can make money. That's why in Africa there was no outbreak. They were giving it in countries over the counter. It's like $2 for a 6-month supply. So they were able to get someone to buy it over the counter, and you didn't hear about those outbreaks, especially in Northern Africa. You didn't hear about it. There was no outbreak. There was no mass death, mass casualty. And the one president that stood up and said, "Hey, we're not countries not getting vaccinated. None of these pharma companies are coming in here." All of a sudden died a tragic death. Nobody knew how. And the 3 people in the world who were leaders, who stood up and were anti-vax, guess what happened to them? They're no longer on the planet. So there you have it.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
I'm sure. I'm not saying there's any connection. I'm just saying it's a hell of a coincidence. All right, guys, that's all the work we got.
XRP is still dead.
Pretty much, yeah.
For the time being.
Pretty much. That is the door.
For the time being. What is it at right now?
Tomorrow night, but that's what we got to go with. So
tomorrow night.
Gone way over, Jeff.
We're going to talk about it tomorrow night. XRP.
To
XRP.
XRP. We're gonna get out of here, man. That's all.
We're not giving medical advice or financial advice. We don't do any of that.
Either one of those. You know nothing but neither.
Just talking about experience.
Experience is
Just
correct.
whatever we've seen out there. That's all.
Right.
Oh, look at that. XRP.cafe's got a new camo on the front, smoking a cigarette.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. All right,
Look at
well,
that.
you're
Camo smoking a cigarette. And
that's
a
a
pipe.
new XRP.
Is that a camel? That looks like a camel.
Yeah, it's another. It's a collection.
Yeah,
And
and
it's
it's a camel. Cigarette and a pipe.
It is a cigarette, Jeff. Sam. All right, guys, we're out of here. Chip and Jeff. Oh, see you guys tomorrow night.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.